Good evening. Uganda remains afflicted by graft, which has permeated every fabric of society. Even with good laws and policies to fight corruption, billions continue to be siphoned. For a country which remains amongst the poorest in the world, corruption affects service delivery. Who will rescue the country from the affliction as the country marks the Anti-Corruption Week? On the spotlight is Uthman Segawa, Director Legal Investigations, and Aloysius Byaruhanga, the Acting Director Performance Monitoring from the Public Procurement Disposal of Public Assets. Uthman and Aloysius, welcome to the show. You're on the spot, both of you. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
If we were to assess PPDA this year, what parameters can we use to measure your success, Uthman?
Good evening, viewers. Welcome on the spot. Some of the parameters that PPDA's success this year: one, finding out the number of compliant entities in procurement. Two, the number of investigations that have been concluded. Three, the number of complaints in respect to administrative reviews, suspension, recommendations for suspensions that have been undertaken by the authority. We also look at the service deliveries, the level of the number of public entities or the wananchi who have benefited from public procurements conducted by the different procuring and disposing entities. So these are some of the parameters that one would look at.
And there seems to be a groundswell of frustration, Aloysius, if you, for example, from the public, and it appears this is legitimate from a point of view. Whereas you have the good laws, you have the good policies, you have the institution to fight graft, but there seems to be little hope for us to see that really graft is being fought like it should be. And that frustration continues to live and linger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. Good evening, viewers. Yes, and on the face of it, the public comes out clearly that they are a bit frustrated with what they are seeing or they are reading in the media. But as we come out in this week, for example, of anti-corruption, our main aim is to allay those fears, to inform the public that you have got allies behind you to fight this graft, and we are the team.
So what you're saying is to restore some kind of confidence in the public, but how? You just can't say it. Well, he's talking about investigations that have been done, but really, people want to see real action. People want to see real results. People want to see figures. People want to see so and so he has accounted for his crime, if there is, and so maybe money is recovered. Things like that.
True.
And you have to walk the talk, Aloysius.
Surely. And as Uthman has just told you, especially under his Directorate of Investigation, there are facts that have show. There are entities that we've suspended so that there is action being done. There are some tenders we've cancelled so that there is action being done. And there are some recoveries we've done, for example, so that this action is being done. And all that is, in this course of this week, we tend to bring that one out for the public to know what is being done.
But how did we get here? That the whole moral fiber, the whole society seems to have a huge integrity deficit almost across the board. Is it in the education system? Is the lack of grooming? Where have we missed it as a country?
Thank you. One, as a country, there are a number of aspects to talk about where we've lost it. One, we look at our history. Corruption has been available since time immemorial. So our effort during this week is to sensitize the public that corruption should be fought, should be rejected, should be reported, and it's the responsibility of all citizens of this country. Corruption has a number of detriments, the worst being loss of lives. In this country, you will find out that where there are corrupt practices, say in procurement, in administration, lives can be lost. Infrastructures may not be received. Hospitals, schools, make mention of the roads. These may be lost in the course of corruption. So the message this week is that the wananchi, the population, should reject corruption, report it to the responsible agencies. That's why we are teaming up with a number of anti-corruption agencies those are the Inspectorate of Government, the Auditor General, the jail sectors, that is the justice and order law sectors. We are talking about police, prisons, so that we can fight corruption. So, one, there are a number of factors that are leading to corruption. The poor pay, the greed, yeah.
But really, Lozius, is it the poor pay? Because we have found those who seem to have bigger offices with a fat salary and maybe enjoying, controlling huge resources. They get tempted, as opposed to the poor person who's getting meager and they seem to have it when it comes to integrity. So really, I would tend to differ from you that poor pay may be not the cause.
I just wanted to step a little bit back on the issue you raised first. Where have we lost it? I just wanted to add on what Uthman has said. In most cases, when the public or when somebody is corrupt and is applauded and is given the front seat because he has got money fraudulently, is given even in the church the front seat, then people tend to think that that's the way. And it becomes a very big problem. Even the young one says, I want to be like the other one. So that's where we start losing it. And on the issue of why the people in the big offices with big chunks are the ones corrupt and as opposed to the small ones, you know very well there's much more temptation to touch in the bigger basket than the small one, which can easily be detected. So that's why even when at PPDA, when we are targeting the areas that we need to focus on, we look at those high spend entities because those are the most vulnerable. That's where the biggest problem is.
So is it your submission really, Uthman, that because of the firms that engage in corruption, they are having huge sums of money, so the people you're working with, the temptation is there because of pure remuneration, so they would have maybe put their hands on the money that is supposed to be public resources? Could that be because the firms involved, and if they get tempted, they have a huge financial war chest, and people you're working with could be tempted? Could that be one of the reasons?
Not really. The people that we work with at PPDA, one of our values is ethical conduct. All public officials should abide by the code of ethics. These are government offices. These are public offices. We should not use the public offices for private gain. Corruption is misuse of public offices for private gain. So whenever we are hiring staff, whenever we are recruiting, merit should be the key advantage and the key point and competence. So, notwithstanding that the firms that we are investigating have a lot of financial resources at their disposal, the way you conduct your investigation you will be judged by the way you conduct your investigations. You have to look at the merits in the case, not to be overshadowed by the mighty power of the companies that you are investigating. And that should be the bottom line in all government offices, in all public offices.
Have the policies and the laws and the framework within which you are fighting corruption helped you enough? Because from my view, it appears this government and the laws have not made it so risky and dangerous for people to engage in corrupt tendencies. Because if they had made it dangerous, like in Eastern Asia, in China, then probably it would be a no-go area.
The law has weaknesses, I must say. There are challenges in the law. if you look at, for example, the PPD Act, the best where you find, for example, corrupt tendencies or collusion or fraudulent activities in a procurement process, the best you can do is to make a recommendation. And that is a creature of the law. You cannot act outside the law. The law provides that where you investigate and you find A, B, C, D, this is what you have to do. And basically the law, the PPDA law as it is right now, it restricts ourselves to making recommendations. You recommend that the tender be cancelled. You recommend that the floating officer be subjected to disciplinary action because you are not the person who is in charge of that officer. So you give the mantle to the other competent authorities to do their job. That's why we are in a syndicate to fight corruption. If I find that there is abuse of office like at PPDA, I would forward this case or this matter to the sister institutions like the IGG.
So are you getting help from those collaborative public institutions that are supposed to be with you in the fight against the graft losses?
Yeah, we've really had a lot of support, and I think our collaboration is now beginning to take root. We've had the IGG working closely with us on the issues of mainly procurement cases. A number of cases have been sent to us for investigation. And we are happy that the police also has introduced an economic crime desk, which we are working with. And all these bodies are coming together to support under this forum. So we are really seeing it as there's some light beyond the tunnel. We are likely to instill discipline in the procurement process.
So when we seem to see some kind of a spike in the levels of corruption, is that because of the fight of so many people who are engaged in fighting it, and so the cases are known, or is it actually that the graft is increasing? Is it because of the work that you're doing we get to know, or is it the challenge is real?
Patrick, this week is the anti-corruption week.
Yes.
The D-Day is tomorrow, 9th December.
I know.
Throughout the year, the previous year, we've been collaborating with different stakeholders so that we can expose corrupt tendencies, so that we can expose graft. And it's because of these collaborative efforts that we, the normal people or the ordinary persons on the street, are able to know what is taking place. We've engaged the media. We've engaged the local citizens through barazas. We've had boardroom sessions with some of the entities where whistleblowers within the entity are able to say, without fear or favor, let me report this to the competent authorities. And it is because of this effort where people are able to say, to speak out, to report corrupt activities.
Any incentives to a whistleblower, for example, when they engage in the barazas and they expose something, is there anything probably that could be as an incentive and so that it makes them report more?
Yes, our sister organizations such as the IGG provide incentives. PPD as an authority, we don't have that mandate or that resource envelope to provide an incentive to whistleblower because we are not a whistleblowing agency. The whistleblowing agencies under the Whistleblowers Act have resources that are allocated specifically so that they can attract whistleblowers to report to them. Then it is the mandate of the whistleblowing agencies to sieve out, to say, there was merit here, here is an incentive. We've been able to save government so much, here is an incentive. So there are incentives under those institutions, but not the PPDA.
About a few months ago when the Black Monday movement was very popular, they used to come out with these figures, and sometimes, well, I don't know whether the figures are very true, but they would say, report about almost 900 billion is lost through corruption almost every year. That's almost close to a trillion. I don't know what your figures are. How much money do we lose? How is the hemorrhage of public resources as we speak?
Patrick, what I can say is that as we team up with you, we should be able to bring out some of this information. We have a lot of information. And it's important that we work closely with the media, and I think that's why we brought you. That's why we've brought you into this anti-corruption. That's why we've had media boardroom sessions to discuss and bring this information out to the media, that there is And it's not only that to inform you the bad, but also to give you the trend. Are we reducing or we are going upwards? So we are looking at the media so much, partner with us in exposing this and also showing them what we are doing. But I also wanted to mention that in what he said among the barazas we are holding, vis-a-vis the issue of the enumeration, the public feels very, very happy, even when you have not given them anything, feels very happy to be involved in mentioning or demanding accountability from their leaders. So we found this wherever we've gone. People come in big numbers and they are ready to expose what they have seen, even when they have not been given anything.
Well, and yet you are saying the same people are celebrating their son or their daughter who seem to have all of a sudden amassed wealth, no matter what the salary is, and they seem to, despise the other person who's doing it the right way and seems to be struggling. So at one point they are able to tell you.
Yes.
At one point they're.
Yeah, of course, the son who is enjoying that benefit is maybe one. And you may find it's a Losias in the village who is benefiting from, who is showing that he has benefited. But how about the hundreds of people around you who are supposed to have benefited from the road, maybe to be constructed? So at least if 5 are not willing to say, 10, about 10 will be willing to give information. Yeah.
Okay, Aloysius and Uthman, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking whether they have suspended some farms and if the battle is actually being won, the battle against graft. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara and my guests tonight are Mr. Uthman Tsegawa and Aloysius Yarhanga from the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, and we're looking into the fight against graft. But how transparent is procurement? Because everybody would say procurement, that's the elephant in the room. That's where the money is lost. That's where the deals are made. But what transparency mechanisms have you put now?
Thank you, Patrick. One of the transparency mechanisms that the authority has put in place under the law, under the amendments of the law, is to require entities to publish their procurement plans at the beginning of each financial year. This assists the would-be potential bidders to know what the Ministry of Health is about to procure in this financial year. Previously, we found that corruption manifested itself in entities or the procurement officers holding this information, selling this information, that we, in this quarter, in the third quarter, we are about to launch a procurement for construction worth so much. So that was one of the transparency avenues that are
holding information. Holding
information. So we are now making it public information. And the bidders should be able to access this information free of charge because it is public, it's in the public domain. 2, we are also providing that we should publish our bid opportunities online and in the papers. That is also another transparency aspect under the new amendments. Thirdly, we are also requiring that there should be disclosure of information at various key stages. For example, if I'm using expressions of interest and I'm shortlisting without expressions of interest, I should be able to say I'm inviting a tender, I'm sending out a tender to the following shortlisted firms, so that people who are not shortlisted are able to know, why didn't you, are able to complain, why didn't you shortlist me, yet I have the capacity. We are also making disclosures after the evaluation process to find out why did I fail, why was my bid unresponsive and I was not successful. People should be able to be given a debrief. That is, those are all avenues of transparency.
Are there companies, business people who are coming back to find out, I put up my bid, I think I had a good proposal, I think I had a good business idea, how come I didn't make it? Are they asking those questions?
Yeah, they are asking those questions. And there is a provision in the law under the administrative review, application for administrative review. If somebody is not satisfied with the outcome of any stage of the procurement process, he can appeal, and it will be ably handled under his department.
And further to that, under the law, we also provided for more transparency in our decision-making mechanism. The PPDA law previously, before 2013, would make a decision, and this decision would only be reviewed by courts of law. Now we have another tier in the complaints handling mechanism, and that is the PPDA Appeals Tribunal. The tribunal reviews our decisions. Did PPDA err in arriving at its decision? So we've had also a check as an authority that the tribunal also reviews our decision, and we are extra cautious not to make errors while handling administrative
So if you have
reviews.
to rely, also involve the tribunal to review your decisions, doesn't that make doing business slow? Doesn't that slow down the activities?
Well, I
Allows
think the issue was to ensure that, because the authority has a bigger, wider mandate. You have the advisory role. At the same time, you have the arm to review some of these processes. And it was a way of us putting an assurance to the public that there is somebody else who is overseeing what the authority is doing at the level of the High Court to ensure that the transparency you're talking about is guaranteed. And it is they normally give, it's only a few days that the tribunal is given, about 10 days. And their decision is out. So I don't think that those 10 days really will elongate the process so long. And you are not required to appear again at the tribunal.
So how does one ensure that the tribunal itself, with all respect, is not compromised?
The tribunal, the members
Members are not compromised.
The members of the tribunal are nominated by the minister. The chairperson is of a standing equivalent to that of a High Court judge. They are people of integrity, proven integrity. To be on that committee, it is a tribunal of 6 members. So there is some assurance through the vetting process before these people are nominated and appointed to the tribunal. So there is some assurance or confidence that the tribunal is able to handle the complaints in a transparent and transparent manner.
So what have you been able to cover in this week, in the anti-corruption awareness kind of week?
Yeah,
how have you left your mark, and what mark have you left?
This week we began the week with a procession where we gathered at the Parliament and outside the Parliament Gardens, and we had a walk through town and with our banners informing the people that they should reject corruption and report it as their responsibility. And on that procession, we had all the agencies under this arm of fighting corruption turned up in big numbers. We even had schools, which was very good. We believe that the youth should get involved, begin getting involved into this fight. And thereafter, we had a number of boardroom sessions where we were meeting with the entities and trying to also hammer home the issue of corruption and fighting it. We had media boardroom sessions where we visited some media centers and implored them to join us into this fight. We had barazas, whereby we had the barazas in Barara, in Lira. We had Fort Potro. And they were also proceeded with a march to bring awareness to the public. And I think we have had, and we are going to conclude tomorrow with the dialogue. So, and all this, what we are doing right now, is part of all that.
So now, are we likely to see you look at some people who can be like the champions of integrity, so that people who stand out, for those who have done good and maybe are rewarded and are recognized for having done a good job as civil servants, or maybe they're in charge of public resources and they have come out clean, and then you recognize them and then they become champions, so that and people can say, look at them, they have done it well, and they are shining, and they should be emulated.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Maybe on PPDA level, from the entity side, we've been giving rewards to entities that have performed very well.
Best performing entities.
Best performing entities. And now, it's a good thing you mentioned that we must also begin looking at individuals, so that they can stand out as an example to the rest of the country.
For an entity to be best performing, how does What qualifies it to be best performing?
Some of the parameters that make the entity to get that award. One, it should have budgeted well and spent well. There should be an impact on what it has spent its resources on. For example, some few years ago, last year and the other year, it was national water. So you look at the impact of their resource envelope towards service delivery. Have services been delivered? You look at the compliance levels. Are procurements being undertaken properly? The number of complaints, yeah? How procurements are conducted in that entity. So these are some of the parameters. The governance structure, how they are put in place. All these together are summed up to get to the best performing entity.
Would you believe the poor service delivery problems we face today are primarily as a result of corruption losses?
Well, corruption plays a very big role in a poor service delivery because whenever there is an abuse of office, it translates straight away to failure to offer the service which, for example, a procurement or a budget was intended to serve. So I think largely where we have seen failure to offer the service, corruption has been in the center. And that's why the international world is also recognizing that this is something, a vice we need to fight.
Just to add on that, on Aloysius's point, one of the pertinent issues that are coming out in this anti-corruption week is the need to strengthen contract monitoring of projects at the local governments. You can have a good procurement, but the implementation may suffer. And once there is a bottleneck, a challenge in implementation of government projects downstream, then the whole essence of the project is lost. So to get to service delivery, there is a need to monitor, to strengthen contract monitoring and implementation, not only by government officials, the civil service, and also the local population.
So now, I understand the government of Uganda has embarked on these huge infrastructure developments, especially roads and energy, and trillions of money is sunk in there. But at the end of the day, when you are giving out these contracts, are there local farms which are competing with, or because they don't have capacity, so they cannot even come into the picture? And if they don't come into the picture, it means all those trillions of money, for example, maybe are taken to China because Ugandans cannot compete at that level. What will it take so that the money at least stays in and the local content is visible in any construction that is undergoing?
Yeah, of course I'll ask the legal man who will add a bit on that. But what we are trying to do now is, as you've mentioned, we are trying to focus on saying how do we bring out the local content? How do we make our local person benefit from these huge contracts? How do we need to adjust in the laws and compel mandatory, for example, subcontracting on these roads? So we are looking at all that as we get into the amendments. Already the policy is there that you must promote the local content, you must promote the local farms, but now the law has been a little bit open that you also compete with the foreigner. If you win, you take it. But since your capacity is limited, you can't win it. So now we are trying to look at the law again. Can we make some adjustments and make it mandatory that a certain amount of money must be subcontracted?
Let me, before we go to the break, I ask a question which is a bit digressing, because everybody now, not everybody, most people I've talked to seem to have a feeling that there's a financial squeeze, as if the economy is contracting. But I'm beginning to think we have these huge infrastructure developments going on, and the money is going out of the country. So no wonder somehow we can feel what is being felt now. So what would be the solution to plug that?
Part of the solutions from the procurement perspective, apart from the huge construction projects, there are some other projects that where the local population, the local farms are able to supply. As the authority, we've come up with some policies such as reservations, where you reserve, for example, supply of certain goods in a certain sector to local farms, local manufacturing industries. We are looking currently at having uniforms reserved for companies that that add value to the cotton, so that we can support this local content. We are looking at, for example, manufactured drugs. We have industries in Uganda that manufacture drugs here. So we are trying to protect and to support these industries to participate in these in the development of our nation. So instead of these companies, instead of government entities buying drugs from India, among others, the few that we can manufacture in Uganda, let the resources remain in Uganda. So those are some of the interventions the authority has made.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the line so that you two at home, you can call and ask this gentleman and the question you have on the fight against corruption. Do you think we're winning the battle, or it's not yet Uhuru for Uganda? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amaran. My guests tonight are Uthman Segawa and Aloses Byarhanga. We're looking into the fight against graft in Uganda. I have seen, should I call them, bidding dogfights, often resulting in protracted litigation fights. And that, again, delays businesses. How can you avoid that as PPDA? Those dogfights, bidding dogfights?
There have been a few dogfights. I can mention we've had dogfights on Ministry of Defense construction of the hospital. We've had some for construction of the Kakumiro Bulima Road. Kakumiro Kagadi. Those are some of the few fights. What we've tried to do... The
building of a new House of Parliament, was quite a protracted dogfight.
But right now, after our intervention, I think they are moving on.
But I'm wondering how you have not made, you had forgotten about it. It was a big one.
Just skipped his mind. What we try to do as PPDA is to put in place measures so that the bidders have confidence that the evaluation process has been undertaken transparently. And we've recommended, for example, for Parliament, we recommended that the evaluation is undertaken by an independent review, a third-party provider. Hopefully, we shall be able to listen the quarrels or the complaints in the evaluation process.
So as you move forward, you see that companies, public institutions are compliant, are following the procurement regulations as they are expected? Because really, your job is to regulate, but at the end of the day, the contract is given out by a public institution, either it's UNRWA, either it's KCCA, or it is whoever it is.
Yes, Patrick, much as some few fights here and there, but looking at the audits we've conducted, over 70% of the entities saw a satisfactory performance. That means they are really complying with the law. And it also indicates that they have appreciated the need of transparency in the procurement process. And some of those that have not performed satisfactorily, it's mainly few record keeping, which is still a challenge in the government sector. But at times when you find the records are missing, but still the service has been delivered. Now the only question is that did you do it properly? But largely the entities are doing well.
I just want to draw your attention to, for example, public buildings, government buildings, especially hospitals. There's one particular one. When you look, old hospitals like Entebbe Grade B, built in 1914, if you look at the walls, they're still as strong as they were almost 100 years ago. But if you look at some of the new buildings that have been included within some of these hospitals, you find the walls are shaky, are wobbly, maybe the cracks here and there. And you wonder, we are supposed as a country to be advancing in our engineering, in our skills, in our technology, but that's not the reality. The structures we put up today can actually cause you worry than what was built 100 years ago. Why?
You can look at that from a number of angles. One, it could be poor specifications, the standards of materials that could be used, the supervision, the quality of the supervision that is done, because the contractor has to be supervised by someone. the supervising consultant has to approve the materials, the quality aspects of the materials to be used on that project. So where you have no strong contract management, which is one of the challenges that the public procurement system is facing currently in Uganda, you'll end up with such structures. So the contract management process, the supervision process would bring such challenges of either substandard work or structures that wouldn't last for the lifetime that they are meant to.
How would you enhance this supervision mechanisms, for example, Osius? And I will be opening the line so that you at home, you could pick up a call and ask this gentleman a question you have in relation to the fight against corruption.
Yeah, I just wanted also to add before I answer that you can't rule out the issue of corruption also. It is also another challenge, more especially in implementation. But for us as PPDA, we have clear guidelines on contract management, what we expect the entities to go through to ensure that contracts are managed properly. And when we expect there must be a supervisor nominated and appointed by the accounting officer, and that supervisor should have a clear contract management plan, and the plan must be followed in line with the deliverables in the contract. And when we come to audit, and those are the things specifically we target to see, did you follow what was required? Did you have a contract manager? And we've noted that in many entities, that aspect is ignored. You find work is going on, but there's nobody who is answerable. Even when they have an external consultant, still the entity should have somebody internally responsible for what is going on. And again, on the issue of poor performance of buildings, as we mentioned, the issue of standards, the issue of quality assurance goes beyond even the entity. For example, if I can look at the issues like concrete, if I can use that as an example, the Ministry of Works offices at the Chireka are very critical. Because you'll find in the specifications they have said they need concrete of this type, of this strength. And you find somebody in the Ministry of Works has approved, and maybe they has approved something which is not exactly the quality.
But even if it was exactly the exact quality, at every level, maybe somebody is taking off something, and before you know it, you don't have.
Exactly.
Let me. I'm opening the line so that I can have you two participate in this discussion, because this is about us as Ugandans. How do we fight graft so that we can stop the hemorrhage of public resources and money can be put into areas where it's supposed to be, and then it can help our government, our country develop. So I take the very first call online. Hello?
Hello, yes, hi.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Peter. I'm calling from Barara.
Peter in Barara, you're on air, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm working on the two gentlemen are basically on.
Continue.
Yeah, but there's this thing, most people ask for contracts before the contract is paid to you. A good percentage of the money goes to the awarding committee, and that is basically what contributes to the poor structure that we have now.
Awarding committees.
What is your take on that?
Okay. All right. They'll respond to that. There's an awarding committee, contract awarding committee. Okay. Thank you, Peter in Barara. Let me take another call online. Hello.
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Vincent Mwongi.
Yes, Vincent.
Now, look, I want to ask the gentlemen.
Yes.
Why can't they put up, let's say, a fake business transaction to catch up these people? Because they know where these people are. How can you sit in your office and expect a whistleblower to come and bring you information? Think of me, poor man. I'm dying. Somebody is asking for 20,000 shillings to treat me. And you expect me to risk my life, go and run and report. I'm in a court. I'm about to be taken to the judiciary there. Okay? And I know maybe I'm innocent, but I'm a poor man. And the person reporting me is a rich man.
Okay.
And you expect him. thief and go and report this man who knows everybody outside and inside the judiciary? I think these people, I think the whole thing is a fake. These people should be a bit more serious. Leave their offices and go out and make business transactions, fake ones, so that they can corrupt and they can catch these people.
You want them to trap them, to lay some traps?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take two more callers, and then the two gentlemen here will respond. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Kamadi.
Kamadi.
I'm calling from Wakiso.
Kamadi in Wakiso, you're on the air, sir.
Yeah, I would like to thank you and the guest for a good program.
You're welcome, sir.
But only the fight against corruption needs change in attitude. We should not seem to be promoting corrupt people like what we are talking about. We should make it a difficult venture. The other who has a mass wealth and can't account for it, it should be actually taken away. That is the comment I want to make.
Thank you very much, Kamadi in Wakiso. Let me take two more callers. I understand there are quite a number of people want to contribute on this topic. Maybe you have your experiences and your frustrations. Yes, sir.
This is Byron calling from Zambia.
Could you repeat that?
I'm Byron calling from Zambia.
Byron in Zambia, you're on air, sir.
Yes. Now, the biggest problem about that graph, I can tell you the problem is with these people who are very, very educated. Because for him, he can manage to save his life without bribing anybody. But imagine, I'm in Zambia, I'm a poor teacher, a medical worker needs 10,000. Save me. And you expect me to go back? Medical worker is the one who went to school. His father is an MP, he's an engineer somewhere. He's earning more than I do. He's the one demanding for money. What do you expect me to do? Because I've seen this corruption thing is also another invisible ministry in this country.
It's an invisible ministry. Okay.
It's an invisible ministry which is earning some money for this government. Because I can tell you, these educated people are the biggest problem to our country. Because there is no way how you can even compete with him in court. Thank you, NTV.
Thank you very much. The very last caller. I think he was having some real examples, and he says you want to access some medical service, and then you're really sick, and somebody wants 10,000 shillings. You just don't want to dilly-dally. You want a service, and you give a bribe or something like that. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Marua. My name.
I'm sorry?
Christine is my name.
I can't hear you properly.
I am saying I'm calling Christine from Marua.
Christine from Arua, you're on air, madam.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Christine is my name from Marua. Christine is my name from Marua. I am saying I'm calling from Marua. Yes, please. Our problem in Uganda is previously caused by this particular people, PPDA. Yes? What I'm saying so is when they used to give us an example of any engineer who is supposed to be employed, you find these people make this category of people bleed so much in a way that part of their money is taken out. Then you find the work is done not the right way. So that's why people are complaining. The problem is this particular group of people you are ironing this issue with.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christine, from calling in from Arua. Gentlemen, a number of questions from different parts of Uganda, from different people. Some of them related, others are not. Who is going first? Aloysius?
Yes, I can go first on Peter from Mbarara, who talks about the awarding committee taking part of the money and affecting the quality of work. And that is exactly why we are here. We want to look out for such people who are making business. procurement very expensive and who are affecting our service delivery. And that's why we are calling upon the public because corruption is two-way. I mean, this committee will be bribed by the businessman. So if we can get such information, we act so quickly and take punitive action. As my colleague said, we recommend action on those officers by the accounting officer to stop that. But it is something which is true. It happens, and it is affecting service delivery. And then on you
Vincent was asking that why can't these anti-corruption agencies come out and carry out fake transactions and
lay some traps
to apprehend the culprits. PPD as an institution is not doing that at the moment. However, our other institutions in this syndicate are doing the same. The IGG has agents, the Auditor General has agents, police has agents, yeah, out there to trap offenders, people either soliciting or receiving bribes. Kamadi from Wakiso, we thank you for the comment. His point was that we need to change attitude, and that is the message that we are giving to Ugandans. Corruption is two-way. We need to change attitude. We need to reject it. If someone is asking for something, reject that and be able to report. It's unfortunate that some Ugandans are not bold enough to come out and stand on their 2 feet and reject this, but this is the message that we have during this anti-corruption week. Varon from Zambia saying that it's the educated people that are more prone to corruption, that we should remove them from government. Well, I wouldn't support removing educated people from running of government, and we leave it to people who are not educated. But the message here that Varon should take is that please report. If you cannot do it as an individual, if you cannot disclose your name, use anonymous names, and we shall be able to do what? To follow up.
Just to add on that, Usman, let our brother Byron not give up. The tone he's giving is like
he's a frustrated man.
He's given up. We are saying no. Please don't give up. Tell us what. Tell us about those people. Tell the police about those people. Tell the IGG, and action will be taken.
Christian?
Christian from Aru, I didn't get the question clearly, maybe, but she was talking about an engineer who does shoddy work, and it's as if PPDA is condoning that. I didn't get clearly the question. I wouldn't want to respond to something which was not clear, maybe.
Neither did I. So anyway, moving forward, how do we save? You still have a question? How do we save or insulate the young generation? They don't get into the trap, into the pitfalls of corruption, so that their integrity remains intact, so that they can hand over to another generation and another. Because it looks like this generation has had a lot of trouble. Probably we lack the grooming, probably something we could have lacked. And yet the generations before us were men and women of integrity. The generations of the 2000, they are not. So how do we protect the next generation? What do we need to do?
Continuous sensitization, embedding ethics in our curricula, so that the young generation are able to go through the system knowing that it is unethical to accept a bribe. It's unethical to use public offices for private gain. It's unethical, it is corruption to abuse your office, among others. We need to continually sensitize this young generation so that they can know that they can live a full-fledged life while living an ethical life.
Okay. Maybe just to add a little bit, Mr. Kamara, we need to also make those young people realize that you are not applauded for being corrupt. You have to make corruption a very bad test for the young people to see. But also importantly, we need to go back to the youth, the young children, as we sensitize them on the issue of corruption. We also identify and kick out vices which make them think corruption is very sweet. Mr. Kamara, you know very well, we've seen some schools where children are campaigning to be prefect and they are given some money to induce their own colleagues. Such vices should be...
Political corruption.
Yeah, this should be not allowed in schools.
But the way how the children are also being taught in even lower primary, and it appears the values are not emphasized, but actually the competition is so tight, and then they are only taught to pass an exam, and just merely to pass an exam, and then we forget about the value system, which at the end of the day will be needed in the real job world, the world of work.
Absolutely.
Okay, our time is out now, so I'm going to begin with you, Aloysius. I'm giving you a minute or two to make your concluding remark.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I only have to implore the public that please join the fight against corruption, report corruption, reject and report corruption, because it's your responsibility, it's our responsibility, all of us. And also to inform the general public that for us in this sector and in this forum, we are determined than ever before to ensure service delivery transparently and fairly. Thank you.
Othman?
The same message as has been echoed by my colleague. We should reject and report corruption. The taxpayers, we should be able to require accountability for the services that we pay for. All procurement should be done in accordance with the law, and where there is any irregularity, it should be brought to the attention of the anti-corruption agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aloysius and Othman. Like they have said, the fight against graft should also be involve everybody, all of us, because this is our country. We want good for Uganda. So if we want good for Uganda, we must act and say good, so that whatever is meant to help us take us to another level is achieved, and the public resources are not wasted by just one or two individuals doing their own thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Uthman Segawa, Director, Legal and Investigations, and Aloysius Biaruhanga, Acting Director, Performance Monitoring from the Public Procurement Disposal of Public Assets, for your time and adding value to our understanding of how the fight is going on, and I'm sure you'll continue with the fight. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Good night, and God bless Uganda.